My name is Nora Elwood. I'm 30, and I build my life with hands that don't ask permission. When I tell people I work at a factory, their faces do this polite twitch, like I just said I staple clouds for a living. Honest work, they nod, in that tone reserved for things you're glad someone does as long as it isn't you. I don't mind. The floor hum is a language I speak. Clock in at 6 honti, steel toes, hair braided tight, hands steady. Fix the line, find the fault, breathe through the heat. There's a dignity to machines. They tell the truth when they break. I stayed after Dad died, turned down the scholarship to state because the mortgage was a heaving thing and the water heater had opinions. Jason, our crown prince of cardiology, couldn't possibly delay med school. Laura had a startup every month. Nadia needed a senior trip that somehow cost as much as a used car. I took the job at the same plant Dad gave 30 years to. Same oil smell, same lockers with names scratched in like epitaphs, same coffee that could successfully dissolve a nail. Mom hated it, or maybe she hated the way I made her brunch table stories less shiny. "This isn't what your father wanted," she'd say, gliding past me like my existence mussed her air. I learned to be the quiet proof that houses keep standing because someone climbs the roof in the rain. It was Mother's Day when the erasing began. I had just finished a 10-hour shift and was microwaving leftover pasta in the glow of our kitchen's one heroic bulb. The family WhatsApp pinged. The message was short and sharp, the way needles are. Happy Mother's Day dinner, Sunday at 6 p.m. I'm so proud of all my children who've worked hard and succeeded in life. You are what makes being a mom worth it. A growing heart bouquet. Then she listed them. Jason, doctor. Laura, software engineer. Nadia, marketing manager. That was it. No Nora. No love you all. No wish you were here. Just a neat little parade of accomplishment badges and a blank space where I live. And then, below it, like she'd thought of the perfect dessert. Some choices are too embarrassing to include. I no longer recognize anyone who chooses factory work over ambition. This dinner is for my successful children. My hands didn't shake. I read it 5 times, like it might turn into something sane if I blinked enough. The chat did the loudest thing it knows how to do. Nothing. Jason posted A. Laura, can't wait. Nadia sent a dumb dancing flower. I stared at my pasta and felt something unclasp inside me. Not rage. Clarity. The good kind. The kind that tastes like cold water after months of syrup. I opened settings, left the group, blocked the numbers, set the phone down, and ate my microwaved pasta. Not because I was okay, because I was done auditioning to be. People think disowning happens in fireworks. Mine was a status update and 3 polite replies. The next morning I woke at 5:45, laced my boots, and went in. The line manager joked about my hair sticking up like a pine cone. I smoothed it down and held the door for Dave from shipping, who still hasn't forgiven me for beating him to the last jelly donut in March. Everything looked the same, except nothing did. I went home and started erasing them back. Photos, posts, the nostalgic rot we call memories. Graduation, vacations. That one picture where Jason tripped and took out a potted fern. Deleted. I unfriended Aunt Carla too. If you watch someone get folded out of the family and call it complicated, you are part of the complication. Silence is a gaslighter's perfume. It lingers, sweet and nauseating. I tried not to text Nadia. My thumb hovered more than once over her name. Did you mean it too? Instead, I opened a notebook and wrote down the sentences I wish someone had handed me when I was 13. You are not a failed ambition. Love can be unconditional, or it is bookkeeping. Fixing machines is not small. Pretending you're above needing things is. I kept the notebook in Dad's old cigar tin that still smelled like aftershave and WD-40. It made me feel anchored to something that had once been simple. The sound of a man coming home tired and kind. Weeks became routines. A wrench in one hand, a textbook in the other. Tuesday and Thursday nights at the tech college, steel toes creaking against rows of sneakers. I learned the old line's moods, the way line 3 kinked on humid Tuesdays like it had a secret union. My badge still said operator, but I was already doing lead work, flow mapping, catching faults before they cascaded. I didn't announce it. I was tired of being evaluated like a science fair volcano. Sometimes at lunch, I'd watch people stage their lives for their phones. Filters, Captions, crafted sainthood. Mine was a dented thermos and a burrito I wasn't proud of, eaten next to a fan that rattled like it had opinions. It felt pure. On a Tuesday, inventory flagged 37 duplicate barcodes. Chaos. Someone said the scanner stand kept getting kicked loose. The floor became a chorus of almost solutions and blame. That's when I heard a voice I didn't know yet. Low, even. Annoyed in a way that meant he now, actually cared. Line 3's scanner is out of calibration, he said, not looking up from a tablet. If you're taking over that line, fix it, please. I turned. Tall, sharp eyes, a face that didn't perform. Reed Lawson, his badge read. Inventory. He didn't smile at me. He didn't flirt. He didn't soften his request to make me feel small and then generous. He just gave me a problem like a gift. I'm Nora, I said, and yes, I'll fix it. Good, he said, already walking, because I'm not logging another 37 duplicates. I fell a little in respect before I fell in anything else. That night, the loneliness tried to do what it does, arrive with a fake apology and a slideshow of every moment I'd once chosen to be useful. I made tea instead, turned off the main light, and sat at the kitchen table with my notebook. I slipped the phone from the drawer and found the screenshot again, not to bleed from it, but to remind myself what revision couldn't wash away. All my children are successful except Nora. She chose factory work. I no longer recognize her as family. I printed it once and slid it into a folder labeled Proof I Didn't Imagine It. Some people call that petty. Survivors call it oxygen. I slept well for the first time in weeks. On Thursday, I calibrated the scanner, zip-tied the stand, and taped a fluorescent note. Do not kick me, I'm sensitive, because humor keeps the rust off. Reed saw it, didn't laugh, but his mouth did something that meant good. We didn't talk more than necessary. It wasn't time yet. On Saturday, the factory was a symphony of metal and grit. I walked the catwalk to the tiny glass office where the lead's chair squeaked like a cricket. I stood there, looking down at the line I knew like a difficult song, and felt the strangest lightness. The world hadn't ended. I had. Not the me that begged for a chair at someone else's table. A different me, with both hands free. When I left that night, I passed the lobby's glass doors and saw my reflection double on the dark. For a second, less than breath, I imagined a figure waiting outside one day, hands folded, posture perfect, rehearsing a softer version of history. I didn't know when or how, only that rewriters always come when there's something to steal. Your progress, your story, your ending. I pressed my palm to the cool glass, felt the hum of the building under my skin, and told the reflection the first rule I'd learned the hard way. If they can erase you once, they will try again the moment you stop performing. I locked the door. I went home. I slept without the phone by my bed. The week after the Mother's Day message, the factory felt like a chapel where I actually understood the hymns. I stopped looking for softness in places that only had steel, and the steel gave me something better. Certainty. Machines don't pretend. If the torque is wrong, they grind. If a sensor misreads, the belt stalls. You fix the truth or you don't. I started coming in early, half an hour before the line warmed up, walking the catwalk with a notebook, sketching flow, noting where pallets clotted and where the barcode scanner lost patience with human feet. By 6 a.m., I already had a plan. By 8 o'clock, I had a workaround. By lunch, I'd written down 3 reasons why the workaround was a bad, long-term solution and 1 way to make it permanent. No speeches, no ta-da, just small, invisible competence. Twice a week, I changed in the locker room and drove to the tech college in boots that left a faint oil tattoo on the linoleum. I sat in the back with kids who called me ma'am by accident and learned systems operations because I was done being the person who knew everything except how to leave. The instructor, a compact guy who loved acronyms the way other men love fantasy football, said I had a line brain. I didn't know if it was a compliment, but it fit. I kept showing up. Reed kept showing up, too. At the periphery first. I'd spot him in inventory, scanning pallets like he was listening for lies. I'd pass him in the break room at 3:15, when the floor did its daily yawn and everyone reached for caffeine like a sacrament. He was consistent, which is rarer than kind. He kept his clipboard straight and his sentences straighter. The day after I zip-tied the barcode stand, I found a sticky note on the guardrail of line 3. Not flirtatious, not cutesy, just scanner held calibration. Good work. RL. I rolled it between my fingers and tucked it into my notebook behind a page where I'd written, "You are allowed to keep the things that see you." We orbited for a few weeks, our conversations shaped like tasks. "Do you have eyes on the slow pallet return?" I'd ask. "Return's fine. Your belt is hiccuping at Station 7. Copy. Also, your fork driver is racing the clock instead of using it. I'll handle it." On a Thursday, the air went weird. Pressure rising. Sky turning that particular green that means the weather is choosing violence. End of shift, I was juggling an email to maintenance about a sensor that thought it was blind when it wasn't. Reed stopped at my station, rain already needling the glass behind him. "You live which direction?" he asked, like, hello was a waste of time in a storm. "West," I said, "off the river road." "I'm east," he said, checking the rain again. "But I pass the river road if I take the cut." He hesitated then. "Your truck make it through flash flooding?" "I've prayed over worse," I said. He nodded. "Come with me. I know the edges. You can get your truck tomorrow if it floats." There wasn't bravado in it, just a steady offer. I said yes because everything outside looked like a dare. We ran for it. The downpour was serious in the way some apologies pretend to be. By the time we hit the lot, we were already wet. His car was the kind a practical man keeps. Older, maintained, smelling like faint leather and peppermint. He drove with the attention of a person who has made mistakes and learned from all of them. The wipers worked like they were proud. 10 minutes in, I realized I was calmer than I'd been in a month. "You didn't flinch when I corrected you about Station 7, he said, eyes on the road. "Why would I? You were right." Most people hear correction like a verdict on their personality. "Most people weren't erased by a group chat last week," I said, before my mouth could decide to be private. He didn't glance over. "Copy," he said, like the floor, no judgment, just reception. Silence, then, "I'm sorry." "Not your fault," I said. "You didn't send the balloons." He almost smiled. "Balloons?" "Growing hearts," I said, like the emoji had a hormone disorder. He laughed, short and genuine. The storm eased its tantrum. The river road slicked into view, and my chest did something reluctant but measurable, unclenched. He pulled into my street and idled under the leaning maple in front of my building. We listened to rain beat its little drum solo on the roof. "I have leftover chili," I said, surprising both of us. "Real beans, good heat, no raisins." "Who puts raisins in chili?" "People who hate joy." He killed the engine. "I hate joy," he said evenly. "Let's go." The apartment smelled like detergent and an old book you can't throw away. I kicked my boots off, threw towels at him, and microwaved the pot because I've never been above the truth. We ate standing at the counter, wet socks abandoned like negotiations on the mat by the door. He didn't perform approval. He just ate and asked me if I'd rerun diagnostics on the belt after I'd tamed the scanner. His phrase. And I felt that small click in my ribs that means safe. After chili came silence. The good kind. The kind that sounds like two people not auditioning. The storm calmed. He looked at me. "You okay?" he asked. And the way he said it, I understood the question wasn't polite. It was calibrated. "I'm free," I said. "I thought it would feel like losing, but it feels like space." He nodded once, as if that answer equaled a solved equation. Space is where you can build. He left without touching me, which felt rarer than being kissed. At the door, he paused. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'll bring you back to your truck. You can pretend to pay me in chili." "That's a fair rate." He went, and when the lock clicked, I put both hands on the door and realized I was smiling. Not the performative kind you wear for a photograph. The one that happens when your insides decide to exhale. We settled into a rhythm I didn't have to name. Coffee in the break room once a week. No stories we didn't want to tell. Notes exchanged on the guardrail. Station 7 steady. Inventory lag at noon. Ask maintenance for an ear. Your fluorescent sign made the forklift driver apologize to the stand. After 2 months, he asked if I wanted to split a ride home on late nights, so neither of us paid the toll in yawns. It wasn't flirtation. It was logistics that made room for care. 3 months in, he said, "There's a quiet bar 3 blocks from your place. They serve fries like a religion. Want to sit and not talk?" We went. We didn't talk for 10 minutes. Then we talked about nothing. He told me he used to play chess with his grandfather and misses the parts of the old man that weren't stubborn. I told him I keep receipts, the paper kind and the other kind, and he didn't flinch. "Heard about your night classes," he said later, not asking how. "The plant is a small town with forklifts." "Systems ops?" "Yeah." You'll run a line before winter, he said, like he was placing a bet with himself. Probably sooner. Is that a recommendation? It's a read, he said. I'm good at reads. He sipped. I was wrong once, about a person. Ex? I asked, before remembering I could be gentle. He nodded. Ex-girlfriend. Pretty apologies. Weak repairs. His mouth softened, not with nostalgia, but relief. I like machines for that reason. You know when you've actually fixed something. We left before last call. He walked me up, waited while I wrestled the door that sticks in summer, and didn't try to end the night with proof. He said, "Good work today, Elwood," the way someone might say, "Good night." We kept it boring in the way love stories don't, and that's how I knew it was real. Rain became a thing. We scheduled around. Clouds at 5, I'll drive. We learned each other's small reliabilities. He brought his own lunch in reused yogurt tubs labeled with a pencil. I hid a backup pair of safety glasses in my locker because he never remembered his. When he forgot them, I'd hand him the pair without a sermon. When I forgot that being erased still hurts in high tide, he'd hand me a silence that didn't require me to explain why. One night at my counter, over noodles too spicy for most humans, he asked, "Do your folks know about me?" I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. They don't know I exist. He watched the steam curl off his bowl. You okay with that? I'm more than okay. I'm calm. Keep the calm, he said, like a benediction. Spring turned to a summer that felt like a second chance. The plant announced a modernization plan that sounded like an earthquake. New tracking software, new process mapping, new blood. I found myself explaining the old system in complete sentences to people who used phrases like stakeholder alignment without irony. My supervisor pulled me into the tiny glass office and shut the door with a soft click. You already do the job, she said. We should pay you like you do. The badge changed before I told anyone. Lead. The chair still squeaked, the windows still faced a skyline of smokestacks and sky, and I loved both for refusing to be pretty. I kept my dented thermos. I let the raise hit the account like an apology I didn't plan to spend. On a Thursday at 7:10 p.m., Reed said, very evenly, in the way you say a thing you've checked twice, I gave notice on my studio. I blinked. Oh? I like quiet, he said, but your quiet is better than mine. There was a full second where my heart tried to make a speech. I overruled it. Bring your plants, I said, but not the dying one. I won't eulogize a fern. His mouth almost smiled. Copy. We moved him in on a Sunday that tasted like iced tea and dust. He brought 3 boxes of books, 2 pans that knew what they were doing, and a chessboard with one knight scuffed from a childhood drop. He put the board on my kitchen table like it knew the room. I handed him a key. He handed me a pencil-labeled yogurt tub filled with almonds. Our lives clicked like a well-seated gear. He slept on the left. I took the right. We didn't post it. We didn't text a single soul. We sat on the couch that leaned wrong and watched the ceiling fan pretend it was doing more than it was, and I felt the cleanest relief I can name. This wasn't a victory. It was shelter. On Monday, inventory pinged about a miscount. I walked the line, made a note to remark the bay, and looked up past the glass to the entrance lobby 6 floors down. In the reflection, I saw myself, badge glinting, hands steady, someone who had built a small life that did not require permission. And just as the thought arrived, they come back when there's something to steal, my phone buzzed on the desk. An unknown number, a voicemail icon I didn't touch. My stomach didn't drop. It lifted like a tide does when the moon does its work. Reed tapped the glass of my office with his knuckles and pointed toward the lobby. You expecting anyone? I followed his finger. There was no one there. Not yet. Inventory lag at noon, he said through the door. Business again. Lunch after? Yeah, I said, and the word felt like a held line. I didn't check the voicemail. I watched the door stay closed. I used to think peace was something you earned once everything was fixed. The bills, the past, the misunderstandings. But I was wrong. Peace is what you choose when you stop waiting for an apology that's never coming. By the time summer folded into fall, the factory hum had changed keys. Half the old machines were replaced by models with touchscreens and quiet whirs. People called it progress. I called it proof that things can transform without losing their purpose. Maybe I could too. Reed and I built a rhythm that looked nothing like romance movies and everything like recovery. Coffee at 6:10, split lunches, nights of ramen, invoices, and soft arguments about whose turn it was to fold the laundry. I caught him humming sometimes, a barely there tune that reminded me of staying power. He didn't ask about my family, not anymore. Once, when I brought home an old photo from my dad's toolbox, the one where Jason and I were kids with popsicles and grass stains, he just said, "That's a good smile on you." No prodding, no pity, just presence. And then the thing I never planned for happened. The story of the invisible child became public. It started with a knock on my office door one Tuesday morning. My supervisor, Trina, walked in holding a printout from the local business journal, a 2-page feature titled, "From Factory Floor to Systems Lead, How Nora Elwood Keeps the Old Line Running in a New World." A photo of me, hard hat tucked under my arm, standing in front of line 3. I didn't even know they'd taken it. Trina grinned. "You're our quiet headline." I laughed it off, but when I got back to my desk, my hands trembled, because for the first time my name was in print for something I built, not something I cost. By lunch, half the plant knew. Reed found me at the vending machines, held up a copy like it was a report card. "Guess who made the movers and shakers section," he said. "Guess who's shaking because of it," I muttered, but he didn't let me dodge. "It's good, Nora. You worked for it. Let them print it." "Yeah, but now everyone will see it." "That's the point." I wanted to argue, but his calm was catching. That night, the quiet part of my life cracked open. My phone buzzed. A number I hadn't seen in months. Laura. "Hey, stranger. Saw you in the paper. Mom was so proud. We were just talking about how amazing you've turned out. We should catch up soon." I stared at the message so long I forgot to breathe. Proud? The same woman who typed, "I no longer recognize anyone who chooses factory work over ambition," was now floating hearts. I didn't reply. 3 hours later, a call came through. "Mom." I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then it rang again, and again. I let it die each time. When I finally checked voicemail, her voice was syrup sweet. "Hi, sweetheart. I saw your picture in the paper. Wow. I always knew you'd do something big. Why didn't you tell us? Jason and the girls are just thrilled. Let's get everyone together. We have so much to celebrate." Celebrate what, exactly? The daughter she erased? The success she only valued once it had a headline? I pressed delete. That evening, Reed came home with takeout. Stir fry, because we were both too tired to pretend we had groceries. He saw my face before I said anything. "Which one was it?" he asked. "Mom, then Laura. They found the article." He didn't say I should respond. He didn't play mediator. He just set the food down and asked quietly, "What do you want?" That question landed heavier than I expected, because for once, the answer wasn't tangled in fear or guilt. "Nothing," I said finally. "That's the best part. I don't want a single thing from them." Reed nodded, like he had been waiting for me to hear my own answer. "Then keep it that way." We ate on the couch, cartons between us, rain whispering against the windows. It should have felt small, but it didn't. It felt right-sized. The next morning, I slid the newspaper clipping into an envelope and tucked it into our keepsake box, right beside a photograph of Dad and the ultrasound printout of the baby we'd just learned about 2 weeks before. Yeah, that part was new too. When the test turned positive, I sat on the bathroom floor with the stick in one hand and disbelief in the other. Reed found me there, half laughing, half shaking. He knelt, forehead against mine, and whispered, "You okay?" "I think I'm everything at once," I said. We both laughed then, and the sound felt like sunlight finding a crack. 6 months later, our apartment was a mess of paint samples, unopened baby books, and a crib we'd built wrong twice before getting it right. Reed joked that our child would arrive more prepared than either of us. One night, as I packed my lunch for the next day, he asked, "Do you want to tell them?" I didn't hesitate. "No." "You sure?" "I'm sure." He nodded, not surprised. "I'm not keeping a secret," I said. "I'm keeping a boundary." He smiled softly. "There's a difference." By late fall, my belly was round enough that people on the line started offering me chairs. I hated it. Sitting made me restless. Moving made me remember who I was. Capable, grounded, here. Trina pulled me aside one afternoon and said, "You should take time off before your feet file for divorce." I told her I'd think about it, but really I knew I'd stay as long as I could. The plant was the one place that didn't question my worth. Then, one gray Thursday, as I was reviewing a supplier contract, my desk phone rang. An internal call from the lobby security desk. "Ms. Elwood," the voice said, hesitant. "There's a woman here asking for you. Says she's your mother." The air thinned. At first, I thought I had misheard. Then I walked to the window, 6 floors up, and looked down. There she was. Same perfect hair, same beige purse, clutched to her ribs like a holy relic. wearing that curated, neutral smile she saved for photos. The one that said, "I'm not cruel, just concerned." My mother. I didn't feel anger, not even panic, just clarity, bright and weightless. "Does she have an appointment?" I asked the guard. "No, ma'am. She said she's family." I took a breath that felt like a line being drawn in concrete. She told the world she wasn't, so no, she isn't. Silence on the other end. Then softly, "Understood. Would you like us to remove her?" "Yes, politely, but firmly. And please note that if she returns, she's not to be allowed inside." I hung up. From the window, I watched the security guard approach her. He didn't touch her, just spoke, pointing gently toward the parking lot. Mom didn't argue. She just stood there, arms crossed, face tilted upward toward the building, searching for something she wasn't going to find. She stayed like that for 20 minutes, waiting for a signal, a wave, a rewrite. She didn't get one. I didn't move. At 6:12 p.m., after she was gone, I got a text from Nadia. "She drove 2 hours to see you, Nora. You could have at least come down. She was crying outside your building." I stared at it for a long minute, then replied, "She erased me for choosing factory work. You all let her. She's crying now because she can't rewrite the ending." And I hit send. Reed got home at 7 with takeout and tired eyes. He saw my face, sighed. "Which one tried it?" "My mom, in person." He blinked, slow and even. "Did you talk to her?" "No, security handled it." He dropped the food on the counter. Good. That was the end of the conversation, and somehow the most love I'd ever felt. We ate on the couch, the baby kicking between us, like she wanted in on it. And for the first time in my life, I realized something radical. You don't owe redemption to the people who broke you just because they finally noticed the pieces. For 3 days, after she showed up at my office, the silence was back. But this time it belonged to me. It was a silence I controlled. No one could weaponize it. No one could twist it into guilt. It was mine, finally. Until Thursday afternoon. I came home from the grocery store to find Reed standing in the hallway, holding something between 2 fingers like it might burn him. A folded letter, no envelope, pale floral stationery. My name, Nora Elwood and family. Written across the top in handwriting I hadn't seen since middle school birthday cards. Reed's voice was low. It was on the doormat when I got home. "She came here?" He nodded. "No return address, just dropped off." The world didn't tilt. It stilled. That same calm that hit me in the lobby window spread again, like my body remembered this fight before my brain did. I took the letter from him. "I'll read it." "You sure?" "I've been sure for years," I said. I unfolded the page. "Nora, I don't know what you've told your boyfriend about me, but I want him to know I always prayed for your happiness, even when I didn't understand your choices." That's how it started. Sugar on top, poison underneath. I only said what I did out of fear. You've always been different. Sensitive. Stubborn. I'm sorry if you felt unloved. If you felt. Those 3 words that people use to erase their cruelty without lifting a finger. Please don't keep me from my granddaughter. I don't want to die without meeting her. We're still family. I finished it and exhaled through my nose. No apology, no ownership, just manipulation, written in cursive. Reed watched me the whole time. When I finally looked up, he asked, "Well?" I folded it back, slow and deliberate. "You were right." "About what?" "She's not just toxic, she's radioactive." He ran a hand through his hair. "She found where we live." "I know." "She wants to see our daughter." "I know." He hesitated. "What are you going to do?" "End it properly," I said. I sat down on the couch, phone in hand, heart oddly steady. I scrolled to her name, Mom, still saved there because erasing someone's number doesn't erase their echoes. I pressed call. She answered on the 3rd ring. Her voice was gentle, rehearsed. "Nora?" "Don't come to my home again," I said. Pause. "Honey, I just wanted—" "Don't leave letters. Don't send emails. Don't involve my husband or daughter. You had your chance." She exhaled into the receiver. "Nora, please, don't talk like this." "You don't get to talk about family," I said evenly. "You told the world I wasn't yours." I was upset. People say things they don't mean. "So was I said. "And yet I still paid the bills, kept the lights on, helped when no one else would. You don't get to rewrite what you burned." Silence. Then she tried a softer tone. "I miss you." "No," I said. "You miss the control." "I regret what I said." "No," I corrected. "You regret that I didn't stay small enough for you to still feel tall." Another pause. Then, the line that had been waiting its whole life to stab its way through her lips. "Can I at least meet my granddaughter? Just once?" I didn't raise my voice, didn't shake. I just said the sentence that had lived in my chest rent-free for 5 years. I no longer see you as family. A sharp inhale, the sound of disbelief, the kind people make when they realize their crown no longer fits. I hung up before she could cry, blocked the number, deleted the voicemail notification before it finished appearing. Reed didn't clap or say he was proud. He didn't have to. He just walked over, pulled me into his arms, and stayed there until both our breathing synced with the hum of the fridge. That night he said quietly, "Do you think she'll stop?" "She will if she understands I mean it." "And if she doesn't?" I looked over at the crib we'd half assembled in the corner. "Then she'll learn what peace costs." The next morning, a photo began circulating in the company Slack. Someone had taken a shot from the parking lot. A woman standing outside the building, arms folded, face turned upward. Caption: "That's someone's mom. She's been standing here for 20 minutes straight. Wild." I didn't react, didn't comment. Just muted the thread and kept typing my report. It didn't matter if they knew. It mattered that I did. Because here's the secret no one tells you about boundaries. They're not walls. They're mirrors. The right people see reflection. The wrong ones see rejection. 3 days later, another letter arrived. This time mailed, postmarked from 2 towns over. Same floral stationery, same handwriting, but it was addressed only to Nora. Reed held it out, brow furrowed. "Do you want me to toss it?" "No," I said. "I'll read this one too, just once." "You don't understand what it's like to be a mother," it began. Ah, there it was. The defense she'd been rehearsing her whole life. The theology of martyrdom. "You think I wanted to hurt you? You think it was easy watching you waste your potential? I just wanted more for you. Better. I wanted you to have choices I never had." Every line was a monument to herself. "I only said those words because I was afraid of losing you. Please, don't throw away 30 years over a misunderstanding." That word again. Misunderstanding. Like typing "I no longer recognize you as my daughter" was an autocorrect accident. I tore the letter in half, then again, until it was confetti small enough to fit in the palm of my hand. Reed stood in the doorway, watching. "You done?" "Yes." He opened the window. I let the pieces go. The air carried them out into the afternoon, a tiny storm of paper that glimmered in the sunlight before falling away. "She can't rewrite what's in me," I said quietly. He nodded. "Good, because that's where your family lives now." I looked at him, the man who met me where I stood instead of demanding I crawl back. The one who never needed my history explained to love me. "Us," I said softly. "That's the family." "Forever family," he echoed. The baby kicked just then, sharp and sure, like she agreed. That weekend, I did something small but sacred. I opened my old folder labeled "Proof I Didn't Imagine It." Printed one final page. Not the chat message, not the letter, not the photo. Just a single line typed in plain font. I kept my peace. I slid it inside, shut the drawer, and felt the quiet settle. Not heavy, not empty, just honest. And that honesty, I realized, was what healing really sounds like. By the time winter came, the house smelled like formula, sleep, and warm laundry. The baby, Lena, had arrived early, but strong, lungs like a trumpet and eyes like she was already taking notes on the world. Reed and I barely slept the first week. He'd wake before her cry, already reaching for the bottle. I'd sit in the glider with her pressed to my chest, tracing the tiny curl of her ear. Every time she blinked, I felt a small, private apology from the universe. One morning, while she dozed against my shoulder, I found myself staring at the drawer in the hallway, the one that held my folder, Proof I Didn't Imagine It. I hadn't opened it since the day I added the words "I kept my peace." For a minute, I almost did. But then Lena stirred, and the urge passed. The proof was important once. Now it wasn't. I'd stopped needing validation that I was right. I was busy building what right looks like. Still, there were reminders that the past doesn't delete easily. 2 weeks after we brought Lena home, an email landed in my inbox. No subject line, no greeting, just one line, sitting stark and clean in the center. "Let's not throw away 30 years over a misunderstanding." I read it twice, then laughed. Quiet but real. A misunderstanding. As if you could misread being erased. I hovered over reply for maybe 10 seconds, then closed the laptop, stood up, and went back to rocking my daughter. She stretched one tiny hand toward my chin and gripped. Babies don't understand words, but they understand presence. She was the opposite of misunderstanding, a living correction. Later that night, Reed came home from a late shift. I told him about the email. He didn't flinch. "Want me to block her?" he asked. I already did. He nodded. Good. We didn't talk about it again. Some ghosts don't deserve airtime. Spring returned. The factory hum softened after the modernization chaos. My badge still said lead, but the team had started calling me Chief Whisperer because I could sense when a line was about to jam before the sensors did. Trina joked that I could smell chaos before it started. She wasn't wrong. At home, Reed and I took turns cooking meals that never matched the recipe. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 o'clock a.m. and find him asleep on the couch with Lena on his chest, both breathing in sync. Those nights, I'd stand in the doorway and realize how much of peace is just watching someone rest without fear. We never mentioned my mother again, not directly, but occasionally, small traces floated up, a hesitation when the mail arrived or when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. One afternoon, while I was reorganizing the office, I found an old framed photo wedged behind a stack of invoices, my siblings and me at some long-forgotten picnic. Jason with his perfect grin, Nadia mid-laugh, Laura pretending to hate the camera, and me, sunburnt and half-blinking. I stared at it for a long moment before tucking it into a new folder, what I survived. I didn't shred it. I didn't burn it. I just filed it. A truth, not a wound. On Lena's first birthday, we kept it simple. A backyard, a few friends, a small cake, balloons that leaned more than floated. Trina brought her husband and a plastic bag full of sparkly nonsense. The line crew came with a card that said, Future Engineer. Reed grilled, because of course he did. I watched from the porch as the people who'd become our family filled the space where the old one used to be. When it was time for cake, Lena stared at it suspiciously before diving in fist first, smearing frosting all over her cheeks. Everyone cheered like it was a world record. That's when it hit me. This loud, silly, beautiful moment was what belonging looks like when you stop begging for it. After everyone left, we were cleaning up when Lena found her toy phone, held it to her ear, and babbled, "Who dat?" Reed laughed. She's already taking calls. She looked up at me, cake still crusted on her chin, and asked, Where's family? The question landed soft and sharp at the same time. I knelt beside her, touched her frosting sticky hand, and said, Family is who loves you on the hard days. She blinked, then smiled and repeated, Hard days. Reed came over, dropped down next to us, kissed her forehead. That's right. And who's your family? Lena grinned so wide her whole face joined in. You and Daddy, forever family. We both froze. That phrase, forever family, we'd said it once, quietly, on the night I tore up the letter. She must have heard. Reed's eyes glistened, and I had to look away before mine did, too. That night, after she was asleep, we stood in the doorway of her nursery, arms brushing. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said, just remembering. Good memories or bad? Neither, I said softly, just noticing the difference. He smiled, leaned his head against mine. You did it, you know. Did what? Broke the pattern. I didn't answer right away. I was too busy feeling the truth of it settle into me, like warmth after a long cold. I thought about the quiet mornings at the factory, the smell of grease and coffee, the hum of the machines that never lied. I thought about Dad's old cigar tin, still tucked in my dresser, and the notebook full of truths that once kept me breathing. I thought about all the people who let the erasing happen, and the few who didn't. Most of all, I thought about Lena, asleep in her crib, completely unaware of the wars her mother had to win to give her this peace. Yeah, I whispered, I did. A week later, another envelope arrived. No return address, no floral border this time. Just one final attempt at ownership disguised as grace. Inside was a photograph. My mother standing beside a lake, holding a single daisy. On the back, written in her looping cursive, Forgiveness is freedom. I stared at it for maybe a minute, then smiled. Not bitter, just done. I slipped the photo into my folder, the one labeled Proof I Didn't Imagine It, and wrote a final note beneath. Sometimes freedom is silence. Then I closed the drawer. Because the truth is, she didn't erase me. I just stayed gone. And this life I built from scratch, was what survived. The first spring storm came early that year. Rain pounded against the windows, rhythmic, steady, like the world was washing something clean. Lena was napping, her curls damp against the pillow. Reed was in the kitchen, fixing a leaky faucet, humming off key, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. Peace has a strange texture when you've lived without it. It's soft, almost suspicious, like you keep looking for the hidden clause that says it won't last. But then you hear your child giggle in her sleep, your partner curse playfully at a wrench, and you realize this is the clause, The life you build when no one else gets a vote. That night, I sat at my desk after everyone had gone to bed. The old folder, proof I didn't imagine it, sat beside me. I opened it one last time. Inside were relics. The screenshot of the Mother's Day message, a fragment of the floral stationery, a photo of me in front of line 3, the baby's ultrasound, and a final page that simply read, I kept my peace. I traced the edges of the papers and felt no sting. These weren't wounds anymore. They were exhibits, evidence that I hadn't dreamed the cruelty or the survival. The cursor blinked on a blank email I'd opened earlier by mistake. For a moment, I imagined writing back, something tidy and cinematic, like I forgive you, but I'm done. Then I smiled, closed the tab, and deleted the draft. Forgiveness doesn't need witnesses. A few months later, a coworker from the old days stopped me in the break room. Hey, Elwood, your mom came by again? I blinked. What? He shook his head. No, not here. The front desk at the old plant. Said she wanted to leave you a package. Security turned her away. I felt my pulse steady instead of spike. Good, I said. That's what boundaries look like. He nodded, awkward. Sorry, didn't mean to. It's fine, I said, and meant it. Back at my desk, I watched the rain slide down the window in slow, even trails. Outside, the line workers moved under the warehouse lights, bright jackets glowing like fireflies in motion. My reflection looked back at me. Older maybe, but steadier. The phone buzzed once, an unknown number. I didn't even check. Just let it fade. Some people spend their whole lives chasing closure like it's a locked door. What I learned is that sometimes the door isn't locked, it's just behind you. At home, Lena was learning to walk. She'd wobble from the couch to my knees, arms wide, squealing when she fell. Reed sat on the floor beside her, ready to catch, not to correct. Up, she said, small hands grabbing the air. You got it, he murmured. She pushed to her feet again, determination written across her tiny face. The world wobbled, but she didn't stop. I crouched beside her, whispering, You can do it, baby. And she did. 3 steps, then 4, straight into my arms. Reed clapped once, a laugh breaking out of him. She's unstoppable. Yeah, I said, kissing her hair. She is. I wanted to tell her someday that her mother once learned to walk too, just not the kind anyone cheers for. The walking away kind. The kind that leads to peace. That night, I found a single email sitting in my spam folder. The sender, Karen Elwood. No subject. 1 line. I'm sorry for everything. Can we start over? I read it once, then hovered over delete. It wasn't anger that stopped me, it was understanding. If I replied, it would feed the illusion that closure needs dialogue. That healing depends on someone else acknowledging the damage. It doesn't. It just needs truth and distance. So I clicked delete. Reed came up behind me, hands resting lightly on my shoulders. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, closing the laptop. I'm just staying gone. He smiled at the phrase, like he'd heard it in me before I said it. Good. That's my favorite version of you. Weeks later, we drove out to the old river road, the one that used to flood every spring. The water was calm now, still and glassy. We sat on the hood of the car while Lena babbled in her car seat, kicking at invisible stars. Reed handed me a thermos of coffee. You ever think about going back, just to see? I shook my head. I don't need to. Everything I used to look for, proof, forgiveness, permission, it's right here. He tilted his head. Right where? I pointed to the 3 of us. Here, the family that didn't need a headline. He nodded, quiet. I like that. Lena squealed in the back seat, shaking her rattle like a protest sign. Reed grinned. She agrees. We laughed, and it wasn't the kind of laugh that hides pain. It was the kind that fills the space pain used to live in. The sky turned gold, the river reflecting every color at once. For a second, the whole world looked like forgiveness. Not because someone asked for it, but because I finally stopped waiting. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and thought, this is what staying gone really means. It isn't revenge, it's freedom that no one else gets to define.